Hey, it's Billy Korean Hair, and I am here with Jennifer Hartman, author of the upcoming The Old Mother Frost, a Yuletide children's book. And I'm super excited about this book, and I'm super excited to talk to you today. How are you today, Jennifer?
I'm good. Thank you, Billy. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm so excited to meet you. I was just exploring Instagram one day, not Pinterest. That would be a whole other a whole other thing. But Instagram one day, and I came across Pagan Kids, which is your Instagram,
Yeah.
and I was very excited about it. Um, so tell me a little bit about your inspiration for Pagan Kids.
Well, the inspiration for Pagan Kids comes with my son. He's almost a year and a half old, and I found that it was a little difficult to try to incorporate my Norse pagan lifestyle into his lifestyle in a way that would make it fun and approachable for him. So when I found out that there was kind of a hole in the kind of I'm sorry. I found that there was kind of something missing in the market for
Yeah,
him. So I decided to fill that gap myself by kind of trying to find um, find my own way to educate children and make it fun for them. So I have my Instagram and Facebook page where I throw out a few little tidbits of information about the Old Norse lifestyle,
hmm,
about Norse mythology, as well as other fun little pagan tidbits of information.
that's fantastic. Yeah, I've been enjoying the little bits. I mean, I was not raised in a pagan household, and I wasn't really raised with any sort of religion. So, it's definitely been easy to embrace paganism because I don't have a lot of baggage to to let go of anyway. But I mean, I've learned a lot, in the month or so that I've been following you. So yeah, that's fantastic. Tell me a little bit about the book you've written and is due to come out in November.
Yeah, so Old Mother Frost is it's a Yuletide book for children, and it's for ages about 4 to 12. It's based around an ancient Norse goddess. Her name is Frau. And for the purpose of my book, I've used her English names. It's Old Mother Frost and Mother Hilda. So essentially, she comes down to the ground around or on Yuletide,
Mhm.
and she makes sure children are happy, healthy, and festive. And if they are, she'll leave a gift for them at their front door before she goes back to her home in the sky. She's a magical person, and she's got many folklore and tales surrounding her. And what I find really interesting about her is just how old her stories go.
Mm,
So her stories were never really written down. They
mhm,
were passed down from like word of mouth through communities. So she's lived in people's hearts and souls
mhm.
for thousands and thousands of years. Her folklore, although it can't be dated back to a specific time, it's said to be older than Odin himself.
Hmm.
So I don't know, when I found out about her, I got really excited and I dove into weeks and weeks of research and tried to find the best way to put this all together into a story that any kid, not just my kid, but any kid would be super
Right.
stoked about.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So it's a Norse story. So tell me a little bit about why the Norse mythology.
Well, it's interesting. I grew up with my mom always telling me about the pagan origins of holidays. And this is a time when you didn't really have Google, so you just really latched onto whatever your parents were telling you about.
So long ago.
Yeah, so long ago. And yeah, she would tell me about Halloween and the thin veil where the ancestors lie, and how streets belong to the ghosts and the ancestors for a night. So you actually have to dress up and hide from them if you wanted to go out. So that was really exciting. Christmas was always Yule for us. My mom never said Merry Christmas to us. It was always Good Yule. And it always took place on December 24th. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. It was always December 24th. And so we'd have our Christmas tree, which she would call a Yule tree. She'd have her Advent candles, which she'd light once every weekend of December to count down to Yule. And I know she just managed to make it magical and special to us. We had our Yule goats, we had our crafts. She'd take us to some Swedish, I guess they're like Swedish concerts and arts. It was just such a fantastic time of year, and we never felt out of place or weird or anything. It was just, it's what we belonged with. It was what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
I feel like there's not a lot of that today. It's really, really hard to find. So it's one of those things I had to make sure my son had.
Yeah.
One way or another, even if I had to make it myself.
So was Yule the big celebration in your house growing up? Like, did you celebrate any of the other holidays, or was that the big one?
My mom kind of like snuck in a few other little traditions, but we never really did any of the other big ones. And I think it was because she was a little intimidated about celebrating the pagan lifestyle in a Christian family. So she was very worried about what other relatives would think about when it came to the way she is. But as she got older, she got more comfortable. The neighborhood moms ended up becoming the Ooga Booga sisters. And it started off with a joke between one of their husbands, and they just were like, yeah, Ooga Booga sisters. And they did their own little thing. And from that, my mom ended up becoming a Reiki master. And she's, I'm actually very proud of how she's stepped into her own after all of these years. And I think it really helps me see her go through that journey as well, because I can stand confident in what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
And if people don't like it, I respect their decision, but I'm not going to change. I'm not going to waver. This is the way I am.
Definitely. Yeah, I've struggled a little bit with that. I mean, I grew up in a non-religious household. My ex-husband, like, we converted to Christianity for a while, which is like a whole other weird story. So things were a little weird. Like, I've always been like attracted to like all the witchy stuff and like paganism and stuff. I remember being like probably like 12 or 13 and going into an occult shop and picking up a book on Egyptian magic, and it was just like mind blown, and I was so excited. So, you know, for a while there, I was like, I never lost that witchy part of me, even like when we were like practicing Christians, but you know, it made me uncomfortable. You know, I was like constantly hiding things from people, and you know, but gotten rid of the husband and to got rid of Christianity and kind of like back to myself and like embrace who I really am, like the confidence that comes with that has been, you know, just life changing.
Yeah.
So, well, that's fantastic. So it's like raising your son, are you embracing other holidays? Are you, what's
Yeah.
that look like?
I started off kind of thinking about a way to honor the major holidays while making sure my son understands the pagan origins
Mm-hmm.
in a fun way. So if this book is good, then great, and at least a little successful, then I'm definitely gonna continue on with a Wheel of the Year series.
Yay.
But I'm slowly decorating my house with fun little pagan trinkets and stuff. I've just got the Wheel of the Year, which I was really excited about.
That's
My husband is very supportive of all this as well. So I don't think my
fantastic.
son's going to be able to grow up not knowing about everything. With every single time there's another celebration coming up on the Wheel of the Year, I dive right in. I'm doing my research. I'm going through, I'm not even kidding, probably at least 60 pages on Google trying to figure out the core of all of this, like
Well,
the
that's
true
fantastic.
origins. And yeah, gosh, I think one thing I've learned is I definitely need to have a fire pit.
Yes.
there's, a, there's a lot of fire celebrations in these.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. I love it. But yeah, I think just being able to connect with nature and being able to follow it with celebrations, and you can feel in your soul that there's something coming up before you even look at
Oh,
something that you've
yeah.
hung on the wall,
Right?
right?
Yeah,
So
no,
just feeling the magic of the holidays is amazing. And yeah, he's gonna know about it for sure. Um, I think he's going to end up growing up knowing all about it.
mhm.
And oh, mom does fun things on certain days. I don't think I'm gonna force it on him. It's just this is what mom does,
Right.
right? So that way I can respect him the way he does things. And I try to tie in my paganism with modern day customs as well.
Mhm.
That way he doesn't feel like he's a total black sheep. I want him
Right.
to, yeah, I want him to feel like he
Definitely.
can relate to what everybody else is doing, but knowing that his way, his childhood kind of cuts to the core of it, you
Yeah.
know? Like things get blown up over time. That's great. Things evolve. Sometimes things evolve to amplify what something used to be.
Mhm.
So I think as long as he knows the origins, it doesn't matter what he chooses to celebrate, as long as he feels like he's got a well-rounded educational background on all this.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Yeah. Like we celebrate we celebrate some Sabbaths a little more than others. And it honestly it changes. Like for some reason, like one year we may be big into Beltane and go all out, and then the next year we barely even like acknowledge it so much. It I feel like that's kind of how life goes anyway. And so, I don't part the there's that part of me that's like every holiday should be perfect and we should be doing this and we should be doing
Yeah.
that. And I've had to let go of that because I just get so wrapped up in like trying to make everything perfect that I screw it all up. And no one wants angry mom when we're trying to have like this fun celebration of like, come on, get out here. What are you
Yeah.
guys doing? Like, so it's like, okay, like it's fine. We've got all of this other stuff I wanted to do. We'll just do this one thing. It's no problem.
Yeah.
So
No problem.
letting go, but I mean that's motherhood and life in general. Just like, you can't always force your will upon everybody.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think that's a lesson I've also learned from my mom. I think we're both very perfectionist type people,
Hmm.
and we always want something to be done so special, and we put so much emphasis on it. And I think for the most part, I'm fairly successful at perfecting holidays. I put a lot of heart and soul into.
Hmm.
But then you look back at it, and all you remember is you spent 12 hours in the kitchen stressing about making everything perfect. And yeah, your kids are growing up. They don't really care about you stressing out in the kitchen.
Nope.
they want to do the fun activities with you. So I think as long as there's a couple staple uh, traditions that you're doing, as long as you're not going over the top and you're spending your time with your kids, that's the important thing.
Definitely. Definitely. Like one of the things we always do for Yule is we'll roll beeswax candles. Like that, no matter what is going on in life, like we will absolutely do that.
Yeah,
Just one of the
sweet.
few things. So that's awesome. Besides Old Mother Frost, what's one of your favorite Norse stories?
Um, I haven't really dove into Hell all that much, but I am so fascinated by her. Like,
Mhm.
in my mind, she's going to show you a reflection of your true self while being true to herself at the same time. Like, she takes care of everybody who comes into her little world, and I think that's something that's really sweet. When you usually think about the afterlife, you think about it being dark, or you think about it being a punishment or something. And I like how Norse mythology has taken hell and everything and just made it into something, in my mind, something that's very comforting.
Yeah.
Uh, But yeah, I think it's Norse mythology as a whole, it's almost difficult to avoid any of the darker aspects of it
Mm.
because it is very much action oriented.
Mm-hmm.
But I have been enjoying the Havamel lately, which is like the Odin's wise words. And that's helped me in my personal life. Just some of the stanzas that happen. It's
Yeah.
meditative. You can reflect back on it, and that's well, it's exactly what it is. It's very wise words. But yeah, as far as the edits go, I'm trying to make them as innocent as possible while trying to feed some information out there for the kids because
Yeah.
you really want your kids to know about Norse mythology, but you don't necessarily want to go into the trickery and the misery and violence. So it's
Also
a hard
thrilling.
line to walk.
Yeah, for
It
sure,
is
for
a hard
sure.
line. I think one of my all-time favorite stories so far has been about Tyr and Fenrir, the wolf. And it's just Tyr essentially he he raised Fenrir from a little pup.
Hmm.
And when the gods became afraid of Fenrir, they decided that they wanted to bound him. And Fenrir understood what was happening, but trusted Tyr and was essentially, okay, if you're going to bind me, if this is what you really want to do, I want you to put your hand in my mouth. So Tyr said, well, yes, it is. Obviously, it's the right and just thing to do.
Hmm.
It's honorable. So he ended up sacrificing his hand to Fenrir because Fenrir got bound. Um, to me, it is pretty violent,
I know a little.
but but I like the story. It's
Mhm.
it's but what doing what's right in the face of what's wrong.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure if it was really meant to teach anything, but it makes me respect Tyr as a god compared to what most of the other major gods do
Mhm.
throughout the Eddas. So I think that's one of the stories that Ragnar is going to grow up with. Sorry, Ragnar is my son. But yeah, that's one of the stories he's going to grow up with is knowing to do the honorable and just thing, no matter how much it hurts.
Yeah, absolutely. Hmm. Well, that's like kind of heavy.
Right?
That's
Yeah, it's
fantastic.
a
Okay.
sweet story. Yeah, okay.
So tell me a little bit about like how you guys practice paganism every day. Like what things you do on a daily basis or weekly basis? Like what's that look like?
Gosh, I have to look around my room, honestly. It's not always Norse paganism. Sometimes it's just little bits of what my mom's fed me throughout my life. Like my salt rocks. Making sure that those are usually on when I've got electronics on, so it neutralizes the buzzing happening. I love spending time in nature. To me,
Mhm.
nature is healing, it's energy, it's life. So being around that is great. And we make sure we go on a walk without any electronics for about half an hour to an hour every day after dinner.
Mhm.
And to me, that's important for us to have our time out in nature. We live in the mountains, so it's really full of a lot of sights. I think day to day, our lives aren't very different from the average life. It's
Mhm.
just we just take our life down to the roots. You know, we plant our gardens. We're trying desperately to nurse herbs from seedlings, and sometimes I find you just have to let nature have its way with it, because the herbs that I've discarded into the discard herb garden have done a lot better than anything I have hanging on my fence.
Of course.
But yeah, it's just, I think day to day, I talk a lot about Norse paganism and things that I'm learning, the conversations I'm having with people online,
Mhm.
the celebrations I try to be part of. Uh, I always try to find one or two things from each of them to put, put into our lives.
Mhm.
With Ragnar, I think it's just making sure that he's got that time in nature really is what's important.
Absolutely. I mean, remind me, he's a year and a half
Yeah,
old?
he's a year and a half.
Yeah, I mean, especially at that age, I just feel everything a child does is magical, like
Yeah.
just when they're immersed in play and the little rituals they create, throughout the
Yes.
day and stuff. Oh, it just like I
Oh,
remember that with my first child, just like watching her all the time and just like amazed at,
right.
the world she's created.
Yes. He's just started playing pretend as well, but it's usually focused around eating.
Oh, of course.
But
Always.
he likes sharing his pretend food with us and everything. So it's super sweet. Um, but yeah, my mind is just blown with how much he's developed as of late.
Hmm.
It's incredible. Oh, there is a few other things. Okay, so I mentioned that we live up in the mountains.
Hmm.
We've got our own little forests. Well, in Sweden, my mom had troll forests and fairy rings, and
Yes.
it's every single time we come across a large mossy patch in the forest, it's always, oh, this is the troll forest. I can't really explain to him exactly what all of that means yet, but it's just part of the little magic that's
Absolutely.
that my mom's given me. We've got some neighbors. They've got some mushrooms starting to grow in a circle. And as soon as I saw that, my husband was immediately saying, "Oh, I wonder what's going on in that dirt for mushrooms to start sprouting out already." And I said, "Well, actually, it's a fairy ring." And then I go into the whole entire uh, bit of like fairy rings are actually quite intricate. I was always told never to go into one because
Mhm.
it's dangerous. The fairies could be playing trick on you, or you'd be stuck dancing for ever.
Ever.
I mean, it doesn't sound like a bad life, but yeah, you end up dancing with fairies and lose track of time, and you just hope that you can find your way back. But then I ended up doing some more research on that because Google is amazing, and as you grow older, you learn to question whether your mom has made things up herself or if it's actually from her country. And I was actually really pleased when I found out that all of this has deep roots in the Swedish lifestyle. And I remember I went to Sweden to go visit some family and do my big Euro trip before moving in with my husband. And one of the first things I asked my uncles and my aunts was, so trolls. And they're like, what about them? Well, do you guys have trolls? And she said, well, yes, of course we have trolls. Like everybody has trolls. Just because you can't see them doesn't mean they don't exist. They're everywhere. That was the first point where I was like, okay, so maybe my mom's not crazy. So I ended up just all throughout Sweden and Denmark, just making sure that I'm really paying attention to the rest of their society, their culture, and this stuff is prevalent everywhere. They've even got this giant, I can't remember what he's constructed out of. I am going to cover him in one of my posts soon. But they've constructed a giant and he's overlooking the water. And they said that the giant is, he wanted so desperately to get to his love that he took the ground and threw it once so that he could step onto an island to get to her. But it wasn't enough, so he had to do it a second time. And that's why there's 2 mounds going into the ocean from where he's standing. I don't know if it was him who was going to her or if that was his way of helping her get to him. It was a really neat story, and I never even knew this existed at the time. So I think following that, I ended up learning about the giants in Norse mythology and everything as well. And I dove really, really hard into it after that. I went down to the Sweden National Museum, where they just opened up their Viking exhibition. And they have a massive display of everything from the Old Norse lifestyle inside, and this really cool interactive game area for the kids, which embarrassingly I spent a lot of time in. But it was
nothing
great.
wrong with that.
There was like this little computer system where you could click on certain people and creatures from Norse mythology, and it would explain the story to you. I spent 1.5 hours in front of that alone before I decided that I should let the kids have their little room. But then outside they have like this even bigger display where you can interact. So you can put on chainmail and helmets. Really heavy. I'm not sure how kids are supposed to put those on.
Right.
The shield was huge. It was massive. They had a little blacksmith area, and every person in each of these displays were experts on the matter. Like I swear they went to university, learned everything they could about this, continuously learned because, well, they live and work at the museum. But just the amount of knowledge they had, and they could tell you exactly where to go to find something else. Like, it was incredible. They had bow and arrows out there. They had a Viking replica ship that kids could play in. If you fell out of it, the water was only a foot deep, so you might get a little wet, but that's fine. They had beds that were reconstructed full of furs, so you could really dive right into the old Viking age and how they lived.
Yeah.
It was incredible. And yeah, if anybody goes to Sweden, 100% go there. It's free, which was incredible. So my big thing going to Europe was to make sure I wasn't going to spend more money than the plane ticket. So,
awesome. Sounds like
it was absolutely fantastic. And I think most of the museums in Sweden are actually free to families because they believe that educating kids should be free. I really hope that ends up becoming something here as well.
We could hope.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
should be affordable. I
Fantastic.
think that's something that I believe in too, is when you're making something for kids, you need to make sure that it's accessible. Families are struggling a lot these days with everything
Mhm.
going on. If you can help make education more affordable in any sort of way, then it should. So it's the same thing going back to my book. I'm not sure exactly how much it's going to cost to self-publish yet, but I'm not really planning on making a lot of money off of it. So
Mhm.
as long as I can get it out to the families, the real goal was to make sure Ragnar had a book, one book.
Yeah.
When I went a little over the top and got a really good illustrator, I knew that I was going to have to take this seriously. So as long as other families have access to it, that's all that really matters. And that's the same thing with my social media pages. I don't think I don't think you can really charge for that kind of stuff. I was asked if I wanted to start a Patreon for my
Mhm.
pages, and I don't think so. I think this is a hobby of mine that I want to share. And
Absolutely.
if it became a full-time job, maybe, but I've got my own, I guess, day job, and
Yeah.
as long as I can keep doing this, I think
One of
I'm
the things that I have, I've seen a lot of, especially for other clients that like I've worked with and stuff. I mean, when people love you and respect you and they appreciate your work, they do want to give you money. They want to compensate you in some way. So even if, you have a Patreon that you're not actively pushing, just to have it so
yeah,
people can be like, thank you so much for your hard work. Because as people who create, like, we undervalue ourselves so much. And like, I completely understand the mentality of like, I want to give this to people, like,
yeah,
absolutely. But like, you still put a lot of hard work into that, like, it is worth something. And I
yeah.
mean, it's a kid's book. It's never gonna cost that much. Even if it was more like on the pricey side, it's never it's never gonna
Yeah, yeah.
that
No, my
expensive.
husband
So
said the exact same thing. It's like just make it. You don't have to push it. Just make it and see
yeah.
what happens.
Yeah, and just because it makes it easy for people, like, if I'm visiting you, I'm enjoying your content and seeing that Patreon, it's like, oh look, I'm gonna sign up and give her, $5 a month or whatever. Like, it helps, and all that, adds up, and it's just like a little tip jar.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually have a couple of people on the top of my mind I want to support already.
Yeah,
Every once in a while, I do share other resources from other pages as well. I like supporting other people.
absolutely.
But also, sometimes the information that other people have is just so extensive and amazing. There's some activities that I have saved up for certain Wheel of the Year celebrations, and it is supporting other businesses as well. I came across little acorns, and they have little coloring book printouts
Mm-hmm.
based on different times of the year. And I think that's just so fantastic. So I have them saved up in my arsenal of things I'm sharing out in the world. So my Facebook gets a lot of that stuff. I'm not sure how to really share that on Instagram. I might try to figure out Instagram stories for that. But I think, yeah, just getting stuff out there for people and supporting each other any way you possibly can is really
Yeah.
great.
And
Yeah.
like, we can't always support financially, but a share, like, just letting people know, hey, like, I love this artist, I love this writer, like, go check her out. So
Yeah, exactly.
like, that's huge. Cause yeah, like, especially right now, we're all dealing with a lot of stuff financially for the most part, and trying to make do and, get back on our feet. So yeah, anything we can do to just support one another, I'm all for. But I mean, like I said, I came across your Instagram and I instantly knew, like, I wanted to invite you to be a part of this virtual retreat.
Yeah.
I was super excited. we were talking about the lack of resources for pagan families. And, that's my whole inspiration behind Witchy Mamas is like, my oldest is 18 now. So, for the past 18 years, I've been, for the most part, just trying to pull stuff together. I mean, before Google, before Pinterest. I mean, Pinterest is awesome now. It's so easy to like, hey, I want to do a fun craft for Beltane. What does that look like? And it's so easy to find ideas now, but 18 years ago, it was not.
Yeah, and you still have to know how to search for the
You
stuff.
do.
Like, I can't even tell you how many hours I put into researching a social media plan just to get like a well-rounded, informed content out in a child-friendly manner.
Right.
It's uh, it was just one of those things that I knew was missing, and if it was missing, I knew I had to create it. So
Absolutely.
as things are happening like this, I'm putting it all together, and I'm a part of a lot of Facebook groups. I don't think I've ever been a part of so many before. It's become almost another job, just kind of seeing what
Oh, yeah.
other people are talking about in their questions. And some of it's actually a lot of it is, where are the children books? Like, where are they? And so I ended up trying to find a list to recommend, and so I've compiled that. And then the next one is, well, what about the adults? So I ended up trying to find that too. And I don't think that there's a lot of good resource books really to learn about this stuff. I
Yeah.
really don't know if you can make one for kids in a way that is going to engage them the whole time, which is why I'm just feeding off little tidbits in my social media posts. But for adults, I think, yeah, there aren't a lot. And after going to the Swedish Museum, I've been trying to find books that like depict everything I learned there
Mm-hmm.
as as much to the script as possible, because as things evolve and develop, the true story can get lost. So I try so hard to keep to the core of it. And I think the first book I found that was similar, I found in Iceland at the airport. And I read through probably 25 books before I found one
Mm.
that was good. And I finished it in 1 hour on the flight. So I probably should have picked up more. But then I ended up finding a few others as well. Neil Gaiman, Norse mythology,
Yes.
is
That's
amazing.
that's part of our
Uh,
homeschool curriculum in this house. We
is
use that.
it?
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic, and it's highly recommended all across the board.
Mhm.
Uh, there's a few other resource books that I found, but I think so far I'm only up at 4. But I'm listening to the Jackson Crawford Poetic Edda right now,
Okay.
which is really nice. It is content heavy as well, but it's the original, well, his translations, and his whole entire platform has given us a lot of what we know about Norse mythology today.
Mm.
So, like, he's highly educated. He's corrected a few translation errors. Just incredible on its own. Even that people can read these runes is incredible. I've gone into the elder and younger Farthok runes right now, and from what I can tell, it's almost impossible to figure out exactly what a scroll or script says unless you know the subject
Mhm.
already. So, but then you not only have to know what these runes say, you have to know Old Norse,
Mhm.
and then you have to take that Old Norse and you have to translate it into English, and it's almost impossible to translate the stuff, which is why I think there's so little resources out there, because you can't really translate somebody else's translation. It doesn't work like
Right.
that. But yeah, It's really incredible stuff. And Iceland itself, I think, is the reason why we have a platform to start learning all of this, because they've been nourishing their Norse paganism a lot. Like I think they were one of the first countries to have uh, labeled it as an official religion.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and so much of their lifestyle is like it's just all about the old Viking age lifestyle. It's
Yeah.
incredible. So yeah.
That's fantastic. Oh, thank you so much, Jennifer, for joining me. This has been so much fun. I am super excited to read your books, and I know you're going to do that whole series because I need that whole series.
I feel like I need
Just
this whole
write them for
series.
me.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we'll definitely talk soon.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for this opportunity and for having me on.